India's foreign policy, just in 5 minutes, a brief reminder of what was done in last class and where we are going. So we had done what is foreign policy, right? And in one sentence, we have an idea that foreign policy is an instrument to secure national interest when dealing externally and strategic interests when dealing internally. So we had done what is foreign policy. Next topic that we have to do is quotes. And we had written a bunch of quotes. Today also I'll be giving you a lot of quotes. We had written some of the quotes in last class. Today also we'll be writing quotes. Every foreign policy class with respect to that topic, I will be giving you a lot of quotes. Even when you are criticizing India's foreign policy, we will be criticizing from the viewpoint of foreign policy experts rather than our viewpoint. Then factors which shaped our foreign policy. And we had started doing this. We were to discuss historical factors, geographical factors, economic factors, security. Security also determines our foreign policy. Security factors. For example, why does India not have good diplomatic relations with Pakistan?
Because of the proxy
Historical
wars.
reasons.
Security.
Yes, one is that what is the other country's foreign policy? Pakistan uses terrorism as an instrument of its foreign policy. All of you have come to this class, right? To learn something about foreign policy. All of you have come at your own voluntary goodwill. Now, I could have also threatened you to come. I could have put, like the external affairs minister said, I could have put a gun on your head and asked you to come and attend this class. Are both the things same?
No.
So that is what Pakistan has been doing. They want us to sit on the diplomatic table with using for terrorism as an instrument of state policy. Terrorism can never be an instrument of state policy.
Hello guys, before we start with the discussion, we just want to inform you that we have launched a very special and unique type of program which is called Excel Mains through the previous year's questions. In this program, we are going to cover the entire syllabus of GS paper 1, 2, 3 and 4. The philosophy behind this program is we are going to cover the syllabus not randomly but just by using or referring the previous year's questions themes. And the themes are extracted from the last 40 years of previous year's questions. There will be a live discussion, there will be a answer writing with the mentors, and the second program is the intense answer writing program which is called Samachar Vani Plus, in which there will be a weekly classes on 10 topics which are extremely important from the UPSC mains and prelims point of view. There will be an answer writing, there will be a questions given after each and every class based on those 10 topics. So even if you are a beginner, this is a good opportunity for you to begin with the answer writing. For any further queries or if you wish to talk with a mentor, if you have any doubts, please drop us a message on the number given below. Thank you.
So security factors, then diaspora or people to people. In many ways, India always takes a very nuanced, restrained stand or restrained position with respect to West Asia. Why do we not take very active, very sharp positions with respect to West Asia, or example OIC, Organization for Islamic Cooperation? Because India has a very large diaspora working in Middle East, right? One of the greatest evacuations that India had to do. You have seen a movie on that, that Akshay Kumar movie. I'm not remembering its name. हैं?
Airlift.
एयरलिफ्ट, ओके, यस,
Airlift.
एयरलिफ्ट, हाँ एयरलिफ्ट, ये सबको पता होगा, है ना? रिमार्केबल. सो नेक्स्ट, elements of foreign policy. What are the elements of our foreign policy? We will be studying many things. For example, para diplomacy क्या होता है? What is political diplomacy?
Can't hear you, sir.
You can't hear me. How should I make myself audible? I think
You are audible.
You are
I
audible,
think,
sir.
I think try to disconnect and reconnect again. Just disconnect once and reconnect.
If she can't hear you, वो भी कैसे सुनेगी?
Now I can't hear you actually. Whoever said something. So para diplomacy, political diplomacy, cultural diplomacy, strategic diplomacy. We will understand what the word strategic diplomacy means. आपने बहुत जगह देखा होगा, India and France have strategic relations, right? Can anybody tell me strategic relation का क्या मतलब होता है?
Bilateral trade, sir.
Bilateral trade is strategic in nature. When bilateral trade is to reduce each other's vulnerabilities, that will be strategic. Anybody else?
Exercises. Agreement.
Military exercises is security diplomacy.
Technology.
Can we say
Again,
दुश्मन का दुश्मन दोस्त होता है?
correct. Yes, in a way you can say. You have to recognize, two or more states have to recognize the common threats. Secondly, they also have to recognize their place in the world geopolitics, geoeconomics, and how they can aid each other. Like somebody was saying, technology transfer. Now that is a very simple idea. We give Pakistan technology to make, एक तरफ से आलू डालिए, दूसरे तरफ से सोना. हमारे पास वो टेक्नोलॉजी है. If we give it to them, so is this strategic? But Russia refusing to give us cryogenic engine, or Russia helping us in nuclear technology, that is strategic, right? Because nuclear technology is of strategic importance, है ना? So not all technology transfers are strategic in nature, but say critical defense technologies, or suppose India and France, they combine on 5G technology to keep China out. ये किसका example बन जाएगा? Strategic diplomacy. हाँ.
Because in 1999 they refused laser guided bombs to us in the Kargil war, but now they are just transferring every because of a strategy. Australian वो उनका नेवी का expansion की वजह से.
हाँ, Kargil war में many people refused. US refused to give access to GPS position. Russia sold us still pictures which were 1 year old. तो सभी ने, why are we having IRNSS today? Because we want to have our own eye. That time we didn't know Pakistan was at a height. I'm sure you all know that height top, that climbing, so many officers sacrificed their life, है ना? When trying to climb that out, we had to do something very manually, just by the sheer brute strength, valor, patriotism. What could have been done very surgically, very precisely by a well trained, well equipped force. कुछ नहीं था हमारे पास. सिर्फ क्या था? भारत का झंडा.
Operation Safed Sagar.
हाँ.
Sir,
So
Israel helped us that time, no?
yes, Israel gave us precision guided missiles. Correct. Israel is, again, that is strategic in nature. Any enemy of the other party, I will help you. Okay. In fact, 2008 के Mumbai attacks में Israel said, give us Mumbai city for 2-3 hours. We will sort this out. But why did India not allow? Even when it took us almost
इंडिया का डिप्लोमेसी लो करता था.
नहीं, when it took us almost 24 hours to send NSG there. Why did we refuse Israel? Because can we allow a foreign country to interfere in our domestic affairs?
No, sir.
No, we cannot. It is a
Sovereignty.
sovereignty issue. Yes, it is a threat to our internal security, even when that country is helping. We cannot allow. So these are the elements of foreign policy. इसमें और सारे हैं, transit diplomacy, stratospheric diplomacy or space diplomacy. All that we will do. And then doctrines. on which our foreign policy is based. इससे आगे हम शायद आज नहीं कर पाएंगे. So we will cover some doctrines. Neighborhood first policy. We will be doing strategic autonomy, very much in news, very much of relevance after India refused to sanction Russian oil. Then Act East policy, Gujarat doctrine, always good for a conclusion. Gujarat doctrine, Far Act East. With respect to Russia, we have a Far Act East policy. So we will be doing the policies. Next class में we will be doing challenges to India's foreign policy. इसमें एक part छूट गया है, evolution भी. Evolution of India's foreign policy from 1947 till today. What has been the evolution? Okay. So let us start. We had discussed this in last class. Let us start with factors on which India's foreign policy depends. First, historical factors. So India was under almost 200 years of colonial rule. So colonial rule, in a way, it lot determined our foreign policy, our polity, the constitution we have, economy. The then president, Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, he attended a conference on capitalism and he was disgusted by the idea. So then he chose for planned economy. You know the Nehru Mahalanobis model, right? आपने economics में पढ़ा होगा.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Nehru Mahalanobis. We went for heavy industries first, rather than, and the strategy was trickle down theory. We thought if we develop the heavy industries, it will trickle down to the other regions also and or to the other industries also. So our foreign policy, we chose NAM, non-alignment movement. The reason was we thought if we side with any alliance, it restricts our choices. And you can write one line here: restriction of choices was seen as a restriction on our sovereignty.
Excuse me, sir. Repeat कीजिए please.
Restriction of the choices was seen as a restriction on our sovereignty. I'm not going to write what we did in polity and constitution, but you know, we chose democratic parliamentary or Westminster model of polity. Okay, so the historical factors plus the challenges. Write a quote here. A nation that has aspirations, a nation that has aspirations to become a leading power, a nation that has aspirations to become a leading power cannot continue with unsettled borders. with
Yes. Continue.
cannot continue with unsettled borders. Unintegrated regions. And underexploited opportunities. Above all, it cannot be dogmatic. In approaching a visibly changing global order.
Dogmatic.
It cannot be dogmatic in approaching a visibly changing global order. So tell me, many of these challenges that Dr. S. Jaishankar is talking about, unsettled borders, unintegrated regions, is it not a problem of our colonial legacy?
Yes.
भाई एक व्यक्ति को बुलाया गया. When India was to be divided as per the India Independence Act, India was to be divided into Dominion of India and Dominion of Pakistan, and there was to be a boundary commission set up for both western part and eastern part. Radcliffe, who had never even seen an Indian map, forget about seeing the country, he was brought and asked to divide the country, and he was given 1 week. A country of India's religious, ethnic, cultural, linguistic diversity. He sat on a table, joined all the thanas that were there, and said, this side is India, to the western side is Pakistan. This was how the country was partitioned. So many of the disputes with Pakistan, with China also, 1894, Tibet and government of India under the British, they signed an agreement. China does not accept this. They took Tibet also. These are intelligent people. They say, ले लो पहले, उसके बाद table पे बैठो. Your position on the ground will determine your position or your strength on the table. There is a very famous saying by Swami Vivekanand, only strength respects strength. है ना? आप वहां पर बोल बच्चन करने जाएंगे, गांधी, अहिंसा, ये वो, doesn't work in diplomacy. You go there telling I am a nuclear power, you are a nuclear power. Back off, you will try to destroy, I will also try to destroy. Let us see which of us survives. So in many ways, foreign policy is just not about soft power. It is soft power plus hard power. So we have to use both of them. India was seen, and UPSC has asked this question. I think those of you who have seen the essay paper, there was a question asked, is India a soft state? है ना?
Yes, sir.
Why was India being seen as a soft state? When we are a nuclear power, how can we be soft state? Soft state is not soft power. Soft state is, for example, CA pass करे 2 साल हो गया है. Rules are not being framed because of fear of protest. That is an example of a soft state. A democratically elected government passes in a legislature a law and does not have the will and capacity to implement it. That is an example of a soft state. Okay.
So can we write it?
No. And in this essay also, you don't have to agree. I'm just saying one perspective. Because you cannot call India. The same government also abrogated 370, right? Which had a kind of finality to it. So
communal appeasement and जो no first use policy तो लिख सकते हैं ना?
Communal appeasement लिखिए both of majoritarian and minority, both. There is appeasement of both now.
Correct. वही ना, regional appeasement लिख दो यहाँ तो.
Yes, you can write appeasement of both minority and majority, but that is not in your foreign policy. That you can write in maybe society or somewhere else.
No first use तो लिख सकते हैं.
Yes, we will discuss more first. Don't worry. So now historical में जो challenge भी है इंडिया के challenge, that is primarily because of the colonial legacy. This is the first factor on which our foreign policy is shaped and is again shaping.
Sir,
Next is
can you give a colonial example of underexploited opportunities?
For example, underexploited opportunities में the India in 1947, you had 13% literacy. India's landscape was heavily demolished. 14% फॉरेस्ट था पूरे भारत में. 13% लोग शिक्षित थे. 92% of the population was poor. है ना? So plus there were several other limitations. The industry that was developed to serve colonial economy or a mercantilist economy rather than the nationalist economy. And your economic resources, the setup was based on exporting raw materials rather than finished goods. So all of those is what you asked.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now geographical factors. Geographical factor mein, this is given by Rajiv Sikri. He's a diplomat, former diplomat. He talks about the 5 arcs of India. अच्छा, किसी को भी कहीं पर भी डाउट हो, प्लीज आस्क. Whichever term you are not understanding, whichever idea you are not understanding, whichever is new for you, आपकी समझदारी की जिम्मेदारी सिर्फ आपकी है. You have the responsibility to ask and get it clarified. Okay? Because I am not able to see these. First of all, whoever has typed this. Not audible, reconnect again. Okay. If there is any doubt, I am not able to see, and then I am not able to ask individually. Some of you, yours names I know. तो बाकी लोग जहां भी हो unmute कीजिए. Please ask, repeat this or explain this. Whichever time you spend in any class, make sure that within in that 2 hours you are gaining that 2 hours that person is giving. Okay. So please ask. Do not hesitate, at least here. So first is the arc of communication. Can you see India's location is central in the Indian Ocean? If you consider the Indian Ocean, is India like a stable stationed ship?
Yes, sir.
So please write one line. India is like a stationary ship in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Any sea lines of communication, SLOCs, any trade happening from Africa will go like this. Any trade happening from Red Sea or Europe will also go like this. So basically, India is connecting the western and the eastern halves. है ना? If China has to trade with Africa, if China has to trade with Europe, China will be using this. है ना? So all the important sea lines of communication, India जो है वहां पर, it is essential to ensure what? Freedom of navigation. And for this, India is also acting as a net security provider. Who is a net security provider? कुछ तो आइडिया बताइए, ट्राई।
India claims to be the
US
net security provider in Indian
हाँ
Ocean,
हाँ, but what
like
is
for
net
First responder.
Maldives and such countries.
first responder to
Sir,
humanitarian crisis?
it negotiates peace as well as, I mean, acts in the first place in case of conflict.
Who
See,
brings stability in the region.
kind of, yes, brings stability in the region. See, idea
Piracy
is
prevents.
Indian Ocean में there are many state and non-state threats, है ना? Piracy, for example, is a threat. Then ये जो सी लाइन्स ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन है, ये इंपॉर्टेंट चोक पॉइंट्स पे बने हुए हैं. अगर वो चोक पॉइंट बंद कर दो तो ये पूरी ट्रेड की रूट समाप्त हो जाएगी, है ना? वी हैड डिस्कस्ड इन लास्ट क्लास बाबल मंडेब के बारे में. Then we had talked about choke points of Persian Gulf. We had talked about choke point of Southeast Asia, Malaccan Strait. तो अगर वो चोक पॉइंट को बंद कर देंगे तो वो पूरी जो that entire sea line of communication or trade will stop. Then there is piracy. There are other challenges, for example, humanitarian aid in disaster. So India not only, लिख लीजिए, the idea of net security provider is India not only promotes freedom of navigation, but also ensures it. There was a document or doctrine released by Indian Navy. लिख लीजिए यहीं पे, Indian Navy 2015. They released a document ensuring secure seas. This document, हाँ,
ensure freedom of navigator ये कैसे ensure कर रहा है इसमें?
क्योंकि हमारे जो शिप्स हैं they are 24/7 पेट्रोलिंग द चोक पॉइंट्स. इंडिया का कोई ना कोई, इंडियन नेवी का कोई ना कोई शिप हमेशा बाबल मंडेब के आसपास रहता है. समझे? एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग ट्वीट बताता हूं आपको. मेनी ऑफ यू मे बी यू मस्ट नॉट हैव सीन और मिस्ड इट. सो पीपल्स लिबरेशन आर्मी नेवी ऑफ चाइना, उन्होंने एक ट्वीट डाला कि वी आर डूइंग ह्यूमैनिटेरियन aid assistance exercise in Indian Ocean. Now you know why will China come all the way and do humanitarian exercise in Indian Ocean. So you know what they are trying to say, है ना? Indian Navy also tweeted, and they tagged a different picture which Indian Navy had clicked, and they had written happy hunting. This was the Indian Navy's tweet. Indian Navy क्या बोल रही है कि तुमको पता नहीं है कि तुम शिकारी हो कि तुम्हारा शिकार हो रहा है. So you are just a fish for me in these waters. That is what Indian Navy was trying to tell them. And they use this phrase happy hunt. PLNA, People's Liberation Army Navy of China. There's a tweet that you can also search. You can just type on Google Indian Navy's क्या बोलते हैं, thug life tweet. What is that called? Something
Thug
like that.
life. Yes, yes.
Savage something कुछ भी.
Iconic tweets. So Indian Navy wrote them happy
एक
hunting.
क्वेश्चन है इसी से
Yes.
रिलेटेड.
जल्दी बोलिए.
नहीं आप पहले बोल लो.
बोलिए, ये लिखना नहीं है आपको. You could write
नहीं.
this example in your essay. वहां पर ये सारी जितनी मैं कहानियां बता रहा हूँ, all of this will go in essay. GS में only problem is time and space limit. Essay में there is no such problem.
क्वेश्चन ये
बताइए.
है कि जैसे कि हम लोग नेट सिक्योरिटी प्रोवाइडर एज ए क्लेम भी कर रहे हैं, इंश्योर भी कर रहे हैं.
Yes.
और
It is
दूसरी
called
तरफ
Blue Water Navy.
सर ये चौक
दूसरी
पॉइंट
तरफ
कितने डिस्टेंस पर होते हैं और ये
यार एक बात पूछो यार. चौक पॉइंट पे पहले एक ने पूछा, अब आप चौक पॉइंट करने लगे एक करके. आप
हाँ,
बताइए
तो
पहले. आपको
दूसरी तरफ जो ये मतलब प्लेटफॉर्म्स पे जो चाइना के साथ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है या फिर पाकिस्तान के साथ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है, तो कहीं ना कहीं अभी जैसे यूक्रेन को हेल्प नहीं की, ठीक है, तो हमारे साथ भी मतलब सेम चीज करने की जो कह रहे हैं कि अगर चाइना के साथ वॉर होता है तो हम लोग एक्ट नहीं करेंगे एज अ मीडिएटर. वाली जो चीज है एज अ नेट सिक्योरिटी प्रोवाइडर भी तो उस पर इम्पैक्ट पड़ रहा है, वो तो ओवरऑल वर्ल्ड को इम्पैक्ट करेगा, तो वो चीज कहीं ना कहीं
So
इसमें ऐड ऑन नहीं होगी।
then the entire world will pressurize China, no, to
हाँ, तो
stop war.
ये हाँ
भाई
बिल्कुल।
भाई रशिया एंड यूक्रेन का वॉर हो रहा है. इज द वर्ल्ड्स ऑयल प्राइसेस सोरिंग? इज द वर्ल्ड फेसिंग प्रॉब्लम्स बिकॉज ऑफ रशियन यूक्रेन वॉर?
हाँ बिल्कुल।
Yes.
सो व्हाई शुड वी बी बॉदर्ड कि इससे दुनिया में और किसको क्या हो रहा है? यू हैव टू टॉक अबाउट योर ओन इंटरेस्ट, है ना. हाँ, चोक पॉइंट भाई डिस्टेंस पे नहीं होता है, वो अपनी ज्योग्राफी पे डिपेंड करता है. दीज आर प्लेसेस ऑफ सच स्ट्रेटेजिक ज्योग्राफिकल इंपॉर्टेंस कि अगर वो जगह जैसे रेड सी में आप ये बाबल मंडेब देखेंगे तो वहां पर जो विड्थ है, दैट विड्थ इज लेस देन 1 किलोमीटर. आपने शायद एक शिप वाली घटना सुनी होगी. लास्ट ईयर देयर वाज एन इवेंट दैट हैपेंड. एक शिप जो है, इंस्टेड ऑफ गोइंग लाइक दिस, दैट शिप बिकेम लाइक दिस एंड इट स्टॉप्ड द रेड सी. दैट
Yes, sir.
दैट सी लाइन कम्युनिकेशन है ना, ये
Yes,
शिप
sir.
को
Yes.
सीधा करने में समय लग गया. तो सोचिए एक शिप, its direction changing can stop the trade entire sea line of communication. So imagine if a pirate ship is there. Imagine if China puts its naval ship there. एक aircraft carrier लगा दे, a bigger ship. So just write few points on net security provide this ensuring secure seas. You can use it in security also. This doctrine, 3 points on this doctrine. Indian Navy का. India acknowledged Indo-Pacific and its role on India's maritime security.
India acknowledged
Indo-Pacific and its role on India's maritime security. The primary area of interest and engagement. Second point. The primary area of interest and engagement was extended till Mediterranean. Third, Indian Navy to act as net security provider. So this is the first arc, the arc of communication. Second arc, the arc of growth and prosperity. The arc of growth and prosperity. So लिखिए, extending from India towards its east. You see how Bangladesh is growing, how Vietnam is growing. Vietnam and Bangladesh are one of the fastest growing economies right now. Asian, historically, these are known as the Asian tigers. Singapore, Indonesia. So Asian tigers. So there is an arc of growth on the eastern section of India. So लिख लीजिए इसको, extending from India through Bangladesh to Southeast Asia to East Asia. That is why we have a policy also, Act East policy. Economic integration with this region. Next arc of instability. What is the condition on India's western side? To the west of India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Persian Gulf, Arabia, Syria, all these regions.
Dysfunctionality of the states.
Yes, Northern Africa, Central Africa. You know, there was an event known as Arab Spring, Sudan, South Sudan issues. There is always civil war in some or the other African country. So on the west of India, there is one problem after the other. है ना? Recently, like for example, Taliban coming back to power in Afghanistan. Examples लिख लीजिए. Terror or rogue state of Pakistan. Taliban coming to power in Afghanistan. Then Syrian civil war. IS, Islamic State, terror outfit in the region. Arab Spring in Africa. Sudan, South Sudan issue.
सर
Yes.
अरब स्प्रिंग खत्म नहीं हुआ है क्या?
So Arab Spring wanted to bring democratic government. Has it been successful or has it brought more chaotic governments there? Tunisia में रातों रात president को coup करके हटा दिया जा रहा है ना?
So that was towards establishing Islamic Emirates, no?
Yes. So now they have gone back to status quo, no? To the earlier positions. They were to bring back or usher democratic countries in this region, Arab Spring. है ना? But after years of civil war, turf, etc., now they are going back to status quo, Arab Spring. Basically, it is a failed revolution in many sense.
So the Arab Spring was related to which countries in Africa?
It started with Tunisia. If you see Africa, so this is Tunisia's location. It started with Tunisia, spread to Algeria and all other. It did not spread that much to Egypt. But if you remember, even Egypt, Libya वगैरह बहुत सारे dictators को उस समय हटा दिया US ने under the pretext. For example, Gaddafi. Even in Egypt there was Iraq, Saddam, all those people.
So,
Huh.
how does the Syrian civil war impact India?
See, A, it creates a refugee crisis. B, Syria's location that is of strategic relevance in the Red Sea. Plus, India had a lot of economic relations with Syria earlier.
Okay, thank you.
Plus, any kind of lawlessness for a democratic country, that is an issue, right? Any kind of lawlessness in its neighborhood, that is a problem for us, hai na?
Yes, sir, but that was also America created problem, right?
Yes,
So
correct. That is there are many players in Syria, both supported by Russia. Assad is supported by Russia. Then Saudi Arabia, US on the other side, they are supporting rebels. In fact, ISIS it is said was created by them. Then there are rebels also backed by them. There is Qatar acting independently. A lot of things happening in Syria. But for us, this is Syrian civil war going to affect US and its people? यूएस कहाँ बैठा है देखिए. Is US fighting any war in its backyard?
No, sir.
हाँ, so this concept is known as कहीं नोट में लिख लीजिए, security community.
Sir, that was also the reason ना World War के time पर they were able to become a superpower after that because उनके घर पे कोई लड़ाई नहीं हुई थी.
करेक्ट, वो उन्होंने जबरदस्ती के लिए वो पर्ल हार्बर करके, आई एम श्योर इफ हिस्ट्री सीज दिस मे बी अ covert operation for them to get into the war and get things done. US is the only country which tells the entire world what democracy is, right? By attacking them. It's former president, very eloquent speaker, President Obama. He bombed the maximum number of countries in a president's period and got Nobel Prize also. So security community के लिए एक लाइन लिख लीजिए. It is a concept or theory or region. Practically it is a region, एक area where large scale violence is unimaginable.
रिपीट कर दीजिए प्लीज.
It is a region where large scale violence is unimaginable. Okay, so arc of instability, arc of growth and prosperity, arc of communication. Next, I am writing it here. Arc of uncertainty. What is India's status, especially border relations with Nepal, border relations with Bangladesh, China, Tibet, Pakistan? Are there unresolved issues?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So there is an arc of uncertainty. Please write that. India's neighborhood has unresolved issues, especially borders. Which see active engagement. Borders which see active engagement. India and Pakistan engage on the borders in a war or daily?
Daily.
Daily, yes. अच्छा ये बताइए, anybody of you please tell me from an interview perspective, Galwan में what was the biggest loss for China?
China is invincible.
Huh? China?
China is invincible. No one can dare. ऐसा कुछ.
Okay. Anybody else?
Face value.
Not
Face
fighting
value.
a battle.
Yes, not fighting. See, when are you scared of a person? Till when are you scared? Suppose you broke your father's phone. Till when are you scared of him?
Till the
जब
time
तक
is
मार
not
नहीं
there.
पड़ती.
Yes, till the time he has not realized or confronted you. Yes. I'm not saying anybody is father or anything. Please, बाद में इसको चला मत देना. India is father of everybody else. Okay. So the idea is China increased the cost of escalation. And now if it backs down, क्योंकि in escalation it is not going anywhere. India did a counter massive deployment, है ना? इंडिया ने बोला हमारे पास सैनिकों की कमी नहीं है, हमारे पास भी weapons हैं to practice. So now China cannot increase the escalation any further, and if it backs down, this will be treated as a precedence, है ना? In fact, many Australian institutes, they studied India's tackling of Doklam issue and India's tackling of Galwan issue as a case study on how to handle China. The only way you can make a bully understand is by confronting them. And China did a mistake of being a bully and then confronting India without realizing the costs of escalation for it. Now we know what they can do, and now they know what we can do. So that, yes, for example, US ये बहुत जगह करता रहता है. US will be beaten by Afghanistan also, but US is not idiot. Wherever US loses, even its loss has its own interests. Do you think US exiting from Afghanistan was not in the interests of US?
It was.
Yes.
Just कहीं पर एक quote लिख लीजिए here, because I am remembering that quote. Maybe I'll forget it later. US never loses wars. It only loses interests. China has to reach there. It is almost there, but it has to reach. Okay. So US never loses war. It only loses interests. This was told by their deputy NSA. So now, arc of uncertainty, unresolved issues with its immediate and extended neighbors. Last, arc of energy. Right? The Central Asian republics in north. Car in north. Persian Gulf in northwest. Africa to its east. India also buys oil from Africa. Africa to its east. In north, you can also write Siberia and Arctic. India is also interested in the Arctic region. So Central Asian Republic, Russia, Siberia, and Arctic region. That also you can add in north. Persian Gulf in northwest, Africa to its east.
तो वेस्ट में आएगा ना?
Africa to its west. Correct. हाँ, कैसे हो गया? Africa to its west. Indian Ocean region in its south. And South Asian countries to its east. Are all energy rich, while India lacks energy security. India lacks energy security. So this is the second geographical factor determining our foreign policy. We have talked about various 5 arcs. Economy or economic factors.
सर ये सिक्योरिटी कम्युनिटी का एग्जांपल क्या होगा?
For example, US, Canada, and their police force could not even handle a black movement, right? ऐसा तो हमारे एक योगी जी कर लेते हैं. And the entire superpower was not able to handle. Because for them, it is unimaginable, large-scale violence. Canada का even worse example. In a truckers' protest, they invoked national emergency. The very eloquent Prime Minister of Canada, for all its championing of freedom of speech, expression, and whatnot, on a simple protest for 10-15 days, invoked national emergency, and they teach and preach us how to handle farmers' protest in India. Why are we not talking about this? I'm sure all of you know he invoked national emergency, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Even people who helped these truckers, their bank accounts were seized. Please mute. Economic factors. So, see, India is the fastest growing economy in the world. it is a major market and fastest growing economy. हम नहीं कह रहे हैं. Who is saying India is the fastest growing economy?
IMF.
Bloomberg.
Yes, IMF, Bloomberg, World Bank, WEF, everybody is saying India is fastest growing major economy in the world. Now, India is one of the largest markets. Plus, is India an open economy? You can write a quote here. Prime Minister after, don't write this Prime Minister after, I'm just telling you. Prime Minister after the latest, 1 year back, after FDI reforms हमने जो किए थे, then he tweeted or he said that India is the most open economy of the world. So you can write that, PM's comment. India is the most open economy in the world. So we are a large market. We are the fastest growing economy. We are the most open economy in the world. We allow FDI, FIIs, technology transfer, everything. Plus, we are very vocal about protecting our national interests. What is the best example of protecting our national interests in economic terms right now?
Buying Russian oil.
Yes, buying Russian oil. Why should Anaga and me suffer imported inflation, the common man of India? It is the duty of the government. The government is duty bound under Article 37 of the Constitution to do everything in its capacity. So they will buy Russian oil. It is their constitutional duty to protect its people. So if we are buying Russian oil, it is not to support Russian war, but to protect our population from inflation. So in economic factors, India always protects its national interests, or it should protect its national interests. Its relations now, even with China, initially we went for economic coupling. This is known as geoeconomics. We thought if we will have very good trade relations with China, it will spill over to other parts of our relation. What happened? China ने $50 billion का बिल पकड़ा दिया, trade deficit. Now we have shifted from geoeconomics to geopolitics. We will do what is in our national interest. Ban 5G of Huawei.
Sir, ये economic coupling क्या है exactly?
Economic coupling means interdependence of two economies. For example, 80% of our APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients, APIs are the basic raw materials for making drugs. Drugs wo wala, bimari wala, Dipesh. 80% of API was imported from China. You know the status of steel, you know the status of plastic, you know anti-dumping, etc., everything. So initially, in the period of 2007-8 to 2012, 13, 14, 15, we followed economic coupling or geoeconomics. Good trade relations with China will spill over to good geopolitics or other relations. China kept doing its incursions. China had a repeated trade deficit with us. China did Galwan, and that was the shifting point. If asked what is the important shift of Indian foreign policy after Galwan, from geoeconomics, we have shifted to geopolitics with respect to China. The foreign minister, he says, the unresolved border tension is the most important issue, and for it, and only other things can be resolved or normalcy will be brought if the border issue is resolved. Whereas China is saying, "Arey, theek hai, border ka karte rahenge. We will keep talking. You resolve or make other relations normal." Okay, so ban on Huawei, ban on TikTok and various more than 100 Chinese apps. China's foreign investments in India, they were brought under government rule. Many other such examples. So India used to follow or India follows as an open economy geoeconomics. But with respect to China, after Galwan, it has shifted to geopolitics. Okay, so, and one more example you can write how economic factors have determined our foreign policy. India's relations with US improved in the 2000s.
सर एक बार रिपीट कर दीजिए.
India's relations with US improved in the first decade of 21st century because of India becoming an EME, emerging market economy. The best example of this is India US CLNDA, Civil Nuclear Deal, or India NSG waiver. Nuclear suppliers group में India got a waiver. Is there any challenge to Indian economy right now? In its foreign policy, there are various weaponizations. For example, there is weaponization of trade. If you had seen, इंडिया ने अभी recent time में wheat का export पे बैन लगा दिया था, है ना?
Yes.
And what was the reason why India banned export of wheat when there was already a shortage of wheat in the world market?
तो शायद वो हमसे लेके फिर उसको बेचते थे, ऐसा
Yes,
कुछ था.
correct. There was transshipment. Correct. There was transshipment. There was arbitrage. Any of these words you can use. Transshipment or arbitrage by European countries and traders. They were buying and stock holding Indian wheat and then selling it at a higher price. So you can write this. Indian wheat was stocked and sold for an arbitrage. Another good example is China and Australia. Australia asked कि एक independent inquiry करो on origin of COVID. What did China do? Banned import of meat and wine of over $1 billion from Australia. So China used or weaponized trade. There is weaponization of financial institutions. For example, when Russian conflict started, what did EU and US do? There is a system known as SWIFT. What is SWIFT? Can anybody tell me?
So messaging system.
हाँ, basically for interbank financial transactions, है ना? So this happens at the global level. So if some trader in India is paying for example, some trader in US, so it will be done on the SWIFT platform. That e-messaging will be controlled by SWIFT. इसी का फायदा उठा के Nirav Modi did what he did, a loophole in SWIFT. So what they did was they banned SWIFT in Russia. Immediately, lakhs and lakhs of Russian population, their accounts were frozen or they were not able to withdraw. Is it not collateral damage in war?
Yes.
Yes. War के भी principles हैं. There is Vienna Convention, there is Vienna Convention, Geneva Convention on how you should engage even in war. Ethics में आपने पढ़ा भी होगा. For example, there should be no bombarding of civilian areas. There should be minimum collateral damage. Prisoners of war should be treated with dignity and respect. Here you are using a soft instrument. देखने में लग रहा है very harmless instrument, but see its impact. And now you should appreciate why India went for digital economy or digital India, or why UPI, or why Rupee, etc. All of them did what they did. You can write one data also. 40% of all digital transactions in the world happening right now are on UPI. This was given yesterday by Prime Minister in the Chief Justice Nalsar conference. So I have not 40% of all digital transactions worldwide is on Unified Payments Interface, UPI. See, I don't know whether this data is right or wrong, but he gave. Okay.
Hello guys, before we start with the discussion, we just want to inform you that we have launched a very special and unique type of program which is called Excel Mains through the previous year's questions. In this program, we are going to cover the entire syllabus of GS paper 1, 2, 3 and 4. The philosophy behind this program is we are going to cover the syllabus not randomly but just by using or referring the previous year's questions themes. And the themes are extracted from the last 40 years of previous year's questions. There will be a live discussion, there will be a answer writing with the mentors, and the second program is the intense answer writing program which is called Samachar Vani Plus, in which there will be a weekly classes on 10 topics which are extremely important from the UPSC mains and prelims point of view. There will be an answer writing, there will be a questions given after each and every class based on those 10 topics. So even if you are a beginner, this is a good opportunity for you to begin with the answer writing. For any further queries, or if you wish to talk with a mentor, if you have any doubts, please drop us a message on the number given below. Thank you.
So there is weaponization of financial institutions, IMF, World Bank, the conditions on their loans. You can also talk about Chinese debt diplomacy here also. China will give you loans, and in exchange, they will be leveraging, for example, territory. So Chinese debt diplomacy. There is also weaponization of energy. For example, EU, it sanctioned Russian oil, but not Russian gas. Why? Why did you not sanction Russian gas?
Because they need gas.
Yes, they are importing gas. Secondly, US, CATSA, counter American adversaries through
Sanctions Act.
Sanctions, yes. What is the problem in CATSA for India?
S400.
S400 buying.
अरे यार वो तो example हो गया. Countering American adversaries. India is not adversary of America, right? Russia is an adversary. CATSA में कौन adversary है? North Korea,
Russia,
Iran, Russia. Yes, India is not an adversary. तो India को क्यों problem है?
Dealing with Russia and Iran.
हाँ, but why? Primary sanctions are not on which countries?
Oil exporting countries.
नहीं, Russia, Iran, North Korea. But there is also a provision for secondary sanction. And secondary sanctions will be imposed on any country
Which trades with these.
which trades with these countries. Now, this is why S400 is a problem for India. Because India is a $1 billion exchange. So India though was given a waiver. US gave waiver. इंडिया को secondary sanction नहीं लगाएंगे. Why do we even need their waiver? Who are you to tell me who I should trade and not trade with? You are indirectly telling me कि जाओ छोड़ दिया, है ना? So this is weaponization of energy. There is also weaponization of space. How is there weaponization of space? ये इंडिया ने भी किया है recently, last year.
Anti-satellite missile.
Missiles.
Mission Shakti. What we did was, एक मिसाइल से हमने अपना ही सैटेलाइट मार के गिरा दिया. What were we trying to demonstrate? Our capabilities to also bring down satellites of other countries. Whereas there is an outer space treaty. Outer space treaty क्या बोलता है? Space should only be used for peaceful purposes. There should not be any conventional weapons established in space. The outer space treaty is silent about nuclear weapons in space. So there is also weaponization of space. Okay. So this is about the economic factors, people to people or diaspora.
Can we say use of international space station? Because Russia
Yes,
and
correct.
China, I think, building their
Yes,
own.
they are trying to have their own space station. Correct. Yes. People to people or diaspora, we will do this in detail. We will do diaspora topic. That how diaspora affects. But एक simple से उदाहरण में, when India was partitioned, that partition was not done rationally. So even in the border areas, still people are having ethnic relations with the other side, है ना? उनके भाई बंधु रिश्तेदार दूसरी साइड रहते हैं. For example, Myanmar में India follows a free movement regime. What is free movement regime? People of Myanmar can come for 72 hours towards Indian side, do trade, etc., and then go back. Why? Because we recognize the historical ethnic relations. इसी का यूज करके नॉर्थ ईस्ट के जो इंसर्जेंट ग्रुप्स थे उधर चले जाते थे, भाग जाते थे ये पोरस बॉर्डर यूज करके. So people to people we will do diaspora in detail, how people to people relations affects, what are the challenges, what are the benefits going forward, and what is this government's relation. Any other ground that is left?
सर ये एफएमआर वाला वो है क्या बॉर्डर हार्ट्स जो हमने बनाया है?
हाँ, correct. Border hearts we have made. Okay, now evolution of India's foreign policy. 1947 से आज तक हमारी फॉरेन पॉलिसी कैसे इवॉल्व हुई है? What are the phases in which we can divide India's foreign policy? It is divided into 6 phases. As given by Dr. S. Jayashankar in Lalit Doshi memorial speech. In this speech, you can watch this speech, it is a good speech. He highlighted the 6 phases of India's foreign policy. So first phase, era of cautious optimism, 1947 to 1962. This is known as the era of cautious optimism. Why? Or you can call it as optimistic non-alignment. So write one line. India did not join either bloc. either bloc. Capitalism led US or communism led by USSR. Write one more line. It was viewed as a dilution of choices. Which was equated with dilution of sovereignty. Therefore, India gave an alternative model. What was that alternate?
Non-online.
Non-online. Non-alignment movement. Correct. So India went for NAM. It was a model. It was a counter model to capitalism and communism blocks. It was basically for third world
countries.
Yes, third world solidarity. What is third world countries?
Global South.
Global South. Any other idea on third world? Who are called as third world?
Colonial
Newly
countries.
decolonized countries.
Very good. Countries which were erstwhile colonized. You can write in bracket. Erstwhile colonies. Yes.
Erstwhile colonies or those countries who got their independence in the 20th century, because America, I mean, I think America got independence in 1776.
Is America part of third world?
No, but I mean, how are we looking at the third world? Colonies as in all the colonies or only within a time frame?
नैम के पर्सपेक्टिव में देखिए, नैम कहाँ बन रहा है? एशिया, अफ्रीका, है ना? जब यूएस और ईयू थर्ड वर्ल्ड यूज करते हैं ना, so they use it in a kind of a derogatory sense, like the developing countries or underdeveloped or least developed countries. That is their usage of the word third world. We use third world for the erstwhile colonies which have got independence at similar times. And when we use colonial rule, are we referring to US or will we be referring to European powers? UK, France, है ना? तो इनके जो colonies थे, they got freedom in Asia, Africa, and that is the third world sovereignty. For clarity, if you want to write erstwhile colonies of imperialists like UK, France, etc. Now, why will
Sir, we were following a neutral approach, a non-aligned approach. So why US started hating us so much in the 60s and 70s?
See, there are many reasons, and it is a very incorrect belief that US hated us in the 60s and 70s. Because India and US had very good relations. In fact, India allowed US to fuel its planes in the 1955 period for its Tibet expedition, etc. India even had a strategic security mission. गलती से वो लोग बॉम्ब वहीं छोड़ गए पहाड़ों में. So also, if you know, US used to also give us food aid, है ना? So there is a counter view that US and Indian relations were very frosty or cold in this period. There is also a counter view to that, which is evident by, for example, US sent its fleet. When India was helping in the Bangladesh War of Liberation, US sent its fleet to pressurize India in the Indian Ocean. है ना?
Yes, sir.
So there are those examples. US, for example, Pakistan joined CENTO, Central Treaty something. That treaty, that military alliance, Pakistan became a part. So many of these factors cumulatively led to India and US drifting apart briefly in this period. फिर उसके बाद आपने न्यूक्लियर टेस्ट कर दिया तो और यूएस को दिक्कत हो गई.
Okay, sir.
So this non-alignment will end how?
Russia से post जाकर I think.
Ended with 1962 Chinese attack on India. India was seen to fail in defending its core national interests. That is sovereignty and territorial integrity. So this phase of cautious optimism ends with Chinese attack, and second phase of or era of realism and recovery. (1962 to 1971) era of realism and recovery. So write one line. India shed its idealism of NAM to meet the challenges of the day. India signed with USSR Treaty of Friendship. This was a clear indication of shedding its non-alignment. So India signed Treaty of Friendship with USSR. Why is it recovery? 1965 Indo-Pakistan War. India defeated Pakistan because we had a capable prime minister who gave the slogan
Lal Bahadur Shastri.
Yes. Lal Bahadur Shastri, Jai Jawan. 1966 Green Revolution started in India. Jai Kisan. Within 1 decade, India achieved food security, or India had surplus production within the next 2 decades, 20 years. So this was the era of recovery. अब थोड़ा recover हो गए हैं तो दादागिरी भी करेंगे. We will throw our weight around. So what will be that period, Anak?
Bangladesh liberation.
Yes. Great Indian regional assertion. The era of Great Indian regional assertion. 1971 to 1991. This is also known as India's Monroe Doctrine. India displayed its hard power. कैसे? How did India display hard power? Arvi? Aditya? How did India display hard power in this period?
सर सबसे पहले तो लाफिंग बुद्धा वाला टेस्ट किया गया, फिर उसके बाद बांग्लादेश की हेल्प करके उसको आजादी दिलाई गई.
हाँ, class में. First is 35th and 36th constitutional amendment, which led to integration of Sikkim. Sikkim became India's part, है ना? Chogyals, they were Tata bye bye. So Sikkim became part of India's territory. Then 1971. Acha, this is 74, 75. So you can write after this. 1971, Bangladesh War of what is the most important change for India in Bangladesh War of Liberation? यहाँ के बाद for all times to come, what changed, especially the world's view? बताइए, लिखिए.
Voice of the voiceless.
अच्छा. This ended the hyphenation or power equivalence with Pakistan. इससे पहले India and Pakistan, for the West, it was always this relation, India-Pakistan. Now India removed this. India showed, I am the boss. India ended the hyphenation or power equivalence with Pakistan.
अच्छा, इससे पहले भी तो हम 2 वॉर जीत चुके थे.
But here we segregated, we dismembered an entire country from them. उससे पहले कभी भी हमने टेरिटरीज वापस दे दी थी उनकी. This was not just a military victory. We also set up standard. एक country को हमने liberate किया. We did not occupy it. We made it independent. Then Operation Smiling Buddha. What is Operation Smiling Buddha?
Nuclear test.
Yes, nuclear test at Pokhran. Now this period will also end. How does this period end?
LPG reforms.
LPG reform से पहले क्या हुआ? Why did we need to do LPG reform?
Crisis.
Yes, payment, balance of payment crisis. उससे पहले 1986, UPSC has asked a question also. IPKF misadventure. We sent our soldiers to Sri Lanka. It was a very climactic event, very disastrous for both India and Sri Lanka. So IPKF misadventure. 1989, disintegration of USSR. 1991 में BOP, balance of payment crisis. So comes the fourth phase, era of maintaining strategic autonomy. Era of maintaining strategic autonomy. So strategic autonomy is, write one line here, although we will do this strategic autonomy principle in detail. Write one line. It is dependence control. It is dependence control to control independence. It is dependence control. Is 1990s में 80% of our oil, sorry, 80% of our defense is coming from Where?
Russia.
Russia.
Yes, USSR. The world is now having only one superpower. That is USA. 80% of our oils are imported. And there is a Gulf War that is going to be happen. In all of this, we want to control our dependence. We want to reduce our dependence on any particular country, region, etc. to control our independence, to maintain independence in foreign policy. Our foreign policy should be free from any pressures or biases of any state or non-state actor. So what did we do? We diversified our defense. And Russia के बाद US तो हमको देता नहीं. So which was the best option available to us?
Israel.
Israel, yes. 1992, you can write India establishes diplomatic ties with Israel. The reason is maintaining strategic autonomy. We did one more thing, Operation Parakram. What is Operation Parakram? Operation Parakram.
Sanction वाला.
Sanction वाला.
Siachen वाला नहीं, वो कुछ दूसरा था.
Siachen. Okay. Anybody else?
Terrorist attack on parliament.
नहीं यार. This is from 1991 to 1999.
Nuclear weapon.
हुई थी ना.
Which one?
So वाजपेयी जी के टाइम पे जो न्यूक्लियर टेस्टिंग हुई थी.
Yes, correct. So India declares itself as nuclear weapon state. India declares itself as nuclear weapon state. क्यों? क्योंकि हमने हाइड्रोजन बॉम्ब भी टेस्ट कर लिया था. We also tested hydrogen bomb. But India put a limitation also, self-limitation here. India came up with the doctrine of no first use. NFU, yes. And moratorium on tests. India said now it will not conduct any more nuclear test. This phase of strategic autonomy ended with Kargil attack. Yes. The fifth phase, emerging market economy. From the period of 2000 to 2013. Emerging market economy. So, write one line. India's rising economic profile. India's rising economic profile got recognized. Second, India seen as a balancing power to China. India went for issue-based arrangements. India did not go for alliances. हमने कोई alliance को join नहीं किया. We have never been part of any alliance, but we have been part of issue-based arrangements. For example, India BRICS. India joined BRICS. India Quad 2007 Quad idea came into being. Although it was formulated as late as 2016, 15, 17 period. India also went for RIC, Russia, India, China axis. Okay. Now, this period will end with, how does this period end?
Regime change.
Regime change. So there was internally policy paralysis. Indian economy was classified as or classified into fragile five. India was classified in the fragile five economies. There was cases of corruption and transition of regime or regime change. Here only I'm giving you an idea. Why is democracy the best system?
You can vote out.
क्योंकि इसका worst case scenario इतना worst नहीं है.
इनका worst case scenario इतना worst नहीं है. Okay. Anybody else?
You can protest basically against the government.
That is not the best. Best
Avoids power to corrupt. I mean, gives the citizen the right to
transparency.
Transparency, yes. This is the only system which allows for peaceful transition of power. Democracy is the only system which allows for peaceful transition of power. बाकी जगह भी लोग सत्ता परिवर्तन करते हैं. People change, even in a coup like Sri Lanka. But is it a peaceful transition? Only in democracy you do through ballot and not bullet. So there is peaceful transition of power. And then the last phase in which he happens to benefit the most, era of energetic diplomacy.
So policy paralysis का मतलब क्या हुआ? कुछ example देंगे?
See, there was fear of CBI, court, CAG. There was no decision making. Governance was collapsing. The bureaucrats were scared to take any decision because of the fear of the 3 C's, CBI, court, CAG. Okay.
So policy paralysis, can we say that defense policy was basically a defensive and now it has become...
For example, there were environment laws. There was an environment minister in those times. She used to not clear files. Even the bureaucrats used to not sign files because they would be charged under Prevention of Corruption Act. There were also cases, 2G scam, coal scam. So era of energetic diplomacy. What is era of energetic diplomacy? So here India shifted from idealism to realism. Once again, we have shifted from idealism to realism. Recent example you can write, establishing diplomatic ties with Afghanistan. We know that it is in our strategic interest to maintain ties with Taliban. Otherwise, why would we maintain diplomatic relations where there is a coup and a democratically elected government has been thrown by the use of force? we have went from enlightened, from national interest to enlightened national interest. सिर्फ हम अपना भला नहीं कर रहे हैं, we have come up with policies, programs, steps for the growth and development of the entire region. Example is Sagar, security and growth for all. For example, India's COVID policy, Sanjeevani, South Asian satellite, GSAT-9. Then our defensive doctrine has shifted from defense to offensive defense. There is a very good video of 2013. Ajit Doval is giving a speech. He was not even the NSA, he was not in power. He was just a retired IB chief. He had given this doctrine and India implemented it once he became NSA. Our security doctrine shifted from defense to offensive defense. Now, what is defense and offensive defense?
So that if you attack us, we won't attack you back. We'll just defend ourselves.
See, in defense, you will build a wall. Somebody is throwing stone at you. You just build a strong wall. In this kind of interaction, what will happen? He throws 100 stones. Maybe 10 stones hit you, or maybe 0 stones hit you. There can be a stalemate, or you can be affected, but you can never win. Are you going and beating this person? इनका पत्थर इकट्ठा करके ले आए 10 पत्थर. So we were following this defensive approach. Now we went for offensive defense. If you want to write in one line, offensive defense is the security doctrine. It is a security doctrine in which there is engagement at the place from where the offense is coming. There is engagement at the place from where the offense is coming. Example, Balakot airstrike, surgical strike. We go to the place from where the offense is coming and neutralize the threat. You can call this as preemptive strike. Okay, next component of India's foreign policy in this period, outreach to diaspora. India's outreach to diaspora. India has actively engaged with its diaspora. So there has been mobilization of diaspora. Example, Namaste Modi or Howdy Trump.
Howdy.
So this happened in India, not diaspora, but this Namaste Modi. It was mobilization of the diaspora there for political purposes.
Sir, opposite. Howdy Modi and Namaste Trump.
अच्छा हाँ जो भी है वही अंग्रेज दोनों अंग्रेज नहीं हो सकते. Howdy Modi, Namaste Trump. This will be in India and the other one will be in US. So plus active rescue of diaspora. India has done one mission after the other for rescue of diaspora, the latest one being Operation
Ganga.
Ganga, to rescue Indian students in both Russia and Ukraine. To rescue Indian students stuck up in Russia-Ukraine conflict. There are other also, Samudra Setu by the Navy during COVID. There is Vande Bharat mission, Operation Sankat Mochan, many missions. Then expanding to new frontiers. India has increased its diplomatic outreach. Now we are collaborating with FIBIC countries, countries of the Pacific Ocean. In fact, Indian Prime Minister was the first Prime Minister to visit Fiji. Mercosur. Indian President went and visited Bolivia, etc. in South America. Quad and Quad Plus. So we are expanding to new frontiers. This phase has not ended till now. It is going fine. Various challenges to these are, we will study that as part of challenge. Okay, so this ends the evolution of India's foreign policy from 1947 till today. Okay, now let us write one question. How many of you are tired?
Me, sir, me.
Okay, then write one question. We have not done anything in detail. So इसमें कभी question तो कोई नहीं आएंगे because India and neighborhood relations we have not done. Just write one question. India's foreign policy has undergone rapid changes in the last 2 decades. Enumerate. Also discuss the challenges that India has to encounter going forward. $15 marks, 250 words. Time is 12 minutes, 9:55. I will check the answer. Okay, write quickly. That will be all for today's class. But make sure all of you are writing. Mail your answer. To this, I will evaluate it right now only. 1 more minute. Please submit your answer. Foreign policy is an instrument to achieve core national interests, sovereignty, and developmental obligations. Okay. Rapid changes in India's foreign policy. Question is asking last 2 decades. From here to here. Also here. Not required. But maybe as one block, you can give just a general idea that what is happening. Just to say that this was the status here and the change in last 2 decades? Strategic autonomy, LPG reforms, balancing power against China, energy, diplomatic assertive. Basically you had to explain 2014 के बाद से वाले जो हमने changes लिखे हैं ना, that is what you had to mention. From idealism to pragmatism, from defense to offensive defense, from economics to geopolitics, from national interest to enlightened national interest. Then you could talk about India-US relations, India-China relations, India-EU relations. To summarize, India moved from non-alignment to issue-based alignment strategy. This is fine. Challenges: energy dependence, boxed up in Asia, reluctance to use hard power. We are using hard power. How is this still a challenge? Excessive idealism, technologically developing, not developed. Okay, India needs to increase its economic capital to increase its foreign policy value. Challenges are a lot. You could have divided it into political challenges, economic challenges, security and strategic challenges. Then environment challenges. Then miscellaneous, some other challenges. And in these heads, you could have mentioned what is the challenge going forward. Okay. You have lost 5 marks. A, you have not shown the transition or enumerated. Basically, enumeration means giving. What does enumeration mean? Giving examples. You have to give enough number of examples. Enumeration is giving example, plus the challenges are not properly segregated and discussed. Anybody else?
सर मैंने भेजा है.
Okay.
मैंने भी send किया.
Only one, Divya. And we will then discuss the model answer and end the session. A nation that has aspirations to become a leading power cannot continue with unsettled borders, integrated regions, and underexploited opportunities. Then where is the link? कोड तो लिख दिया आपने, कोड को लिंक भी कीजिए, है ना? There has been this realization in the last 2 decades, and our foreign policy has shifted from this. And then you talk about changes. Emerging as a realist power. ठीक है. Bangladesh war is last 2 decades. National interest to core deciding elements as the core deciding elements of foreign policy, green revolution, economic reform, establishment of ties with Russia, defense ties with Israel. रशिया के साथ हमने कब ties establish की? Economic and political power in the Asian region, acting as net security provider, market for variety of goods. Okay. Ties with Central Asian, member in UN Security Council. Yes, this is good. Political में लिखना था. Extension of ties with diaspora. Yes, outreach to diaspora, people to people. Challenges, unsettled disputes such as with Pakistan, Chinese aggression, Galwan, Islamic fundamentalism, domestic policies. Don't write Islamic fundamentalism. Global crisis, ठीक है. There is crisis of multilateralism. Political problem में लिखना है crisis of multilateralism, UN, etc. Debt trap diplomacy of China, suspicion over Big Brother role. India is emerging power in world politics, which has made huge progress from newly. Right? So question is asking about going forward, what should be our policy? So quote some doctrine: neighborhood first policy or strategic autonomy. Why waste time writing a generic conclusion when you know strategic autonomy, neighborhood first policy? You can write Gujarat Doctrine 2.0, or India is no longer content with being passive recipient of outcomes, etc. Anything. You have lost 3 marks because interlinking part, there were some factual errors. Challenges not segregated, plus conclusion was generic. Okay, now let us write the model answer. Aditya, Shambhavi, Divya checked, Anaga checked, Vaishvi, Shambhavi, Aditya, Rohtas. Baki log out of 22, 23 people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 people have written. लिखिएगा तभी आएगा. If you don't write, you will never write. So India's foreign policy has undergone rapid changes in the last 2 decades. Enumerate. So you can write by any of the quotes. You can begin with any of the quotes that we have studied. Okay. Tell me any quote that you would like to write. Like she started with a leader which has aspirations for becoming a leading power cannot go with unintegrated regions, unsettled borders, and untapped or unexploited opportunities. With that also you can start. You can also start with any positive quote. For example, there is a quote by Ajit Doval that India should not punch below its weight, India should not punch above its weight, India should increase its weight and punch proportionately, and by weight I mean comprehensive national power. But it will be more appropriate if you write this in conclusion. So you can start with any of the quotes that we have studied. Now, there was a problem in enumerating the rapid changes in the last 2 decades. How to write the rapid changes in the last 2 decades? So few of them we have done. You could mention India has moved from idealism to pragmatism or realism. And you give examples. 1.1, resuming ties with Taliban, maintaining strong diplomatic relations with Israel, then any other example of idealism to pragmatism? India abstained on voting against Russia in the recent conflict. So first is idealism to pragmatism. Second, from national interest to enlightened national interest. We have already done examples for these. Write the example. 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, GSAT-9, SARC, South Asian Satellite, कोविड वैक्सीन मैत्री, क्या नाम था उसका, वैक्सीन मैत्री, देन ऑपरेशन समुद्र सेतु. We have rescued nationals from other countries. Then third, from geoeconomics to geopolitics.
सर ये GSAT 9 लिखा है, GSAT G लिखा है?
GSAT 9. With respect to China, decoupling, economic relations, coupling economic relations with border disputes. Sanctions. Don't write sanctions, you write restrictions on China and give example. 5G trial ban on Huawei, etc. Other examples like ban on Chinese apps, ban on Chinese investment, etc. Using Chabahar to send wheat and medical aid to Afghanistan. In our defense policy, we have gone from defense to offensive defense strategy. Give example: Balakot airstrike, Operation Hot Pursuit, India questioned US's human rights violations. After US released US CIRF religious freedom report. इंडिया में बोला गया कि रिलीजियस फ्रीडम नहीं है, इंडिया ने बोला कि वी कैन क्वेश्चन योर ह्यूमन राइट्स क्रेडेंशियल्स एज वेल. देन outreach to diaspora. You know the points. Howdy Trump and all those things. 6. Use of hard power along with soft power. And more points if you want to write. One or two more points you can write. However, with the fast changing and evolving global world order, there are some new as well as legacy challenges. Then mention the challenges. Divya, this interconnectivity you have to write. You can't just suddenly start writing after writing the transition that now suddenly challenge came. Okay. So first, political challenges. Crisis of multilateralism. UN, WTO, WHO facing crisis of confidence. Problems due to India's domestic policies. 1.2.1 CAA NRC issue. Comment on religious heads. Atmanirbhar Bharat. Protectionism. Then security and strategic challenges. What are the security and strategic challenges? Fear of two-front war with China and Pakistan. Fear of two-front war with China and Pakistan. Cross-border terrorism. Insurgency in Jammu and Kashmir and Northeast. Then threats from communication networks. Example, fake news. Economic challenges. Economic challenges to India's foreign policy will be deglobalization. There is increased xenophobia or deglobalization. Post-COVID recovery. Post-COVID recovery has been slow. Domestic slowdown of Indian economy. Then weaponization of trade. Example, China versus Australia issue. Yeah, recent oil crisis issue. Then weaponization of financial institutions. Next, miscellaneous. China's factor. You can mention all the issues arising out of China. For example, not sharing Brahmaputra's hydrological data, causing floods in Assam. Debt diplomacy in India's neighborhood or buying India's friends. Use of Pakistan as low-cost deterrent. Other factors also, but since time and space is limited. Sri Lankan crisis. It is a challenge, a forthcoming challenge for India. Then Russian-Ukrainian conflict. India has 80% oil is imported. This may lead to challenges. Okay. Then conclusion. India should not punch above its weight. It should not punch below its weight. It should increase its weight and punch proportionately. And by weight, it is meant comprehensive national power. Okay. So this is the answer. We will stop for today. Next class, we will be
सर
discussing.
स्क्रॉल अप कीजिए फर्स्ट एकदम फर्स्ट पॉइंट पे नहीं नीचे क्वेश्चन के फर्स्ट पॉइंट पे
So in next class, we will be discussing the elements of India's foreign policy, para-diplomacy, transit diplomacy, people-to-people diplomacy, all those things, and doctrines on which India's foreign policy is based and challenges of India's foreign policy. After that, we will start going into bilateral and multilateral relations.
सर थोड़ा सा नीचे करेंगे बस
तो लास्ट में क्या बोला? By made it is meant what?
Comprehensive national power.
थैंक यू सर
Okay. Thank you everyone for your time and patience.
Hello guys, before we start with the discussion, we just want to inform you that we have launched a very special and unique type of program which is called Excel Mains through the previous year's questions. In this program, we are going to cover the entire syllabus of GS paper 1, 2, 3 and 4. The philosophy behind this program is we are going to cover the syllabus not randomly but just by using or referring the previous year's questions themes. And the themes are extracted from the last 40 years of previous year's questions. There will be a live discussion, there will be a answer writing with the mentors, and the second program is the intense answer writing program which is called Samachar Vani Plus, in which there will be a weekly classes on 10 topics which are extremely important from the UPSC mains and prelims point of view. There will be an answer writing, there will be a questions given after each and every class based on those 10 topics. So even if you are a beginner, this is a good opportunity for you to begin with the answer writing. For any further queries or if you wish to talk with a mentor, if you have any doubts, please drop us a message on the number given below. Thank you.